Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We love having you here, and it's our mission to bring you all the latest and greatest tips, skills, and know-how to make you the best that you can be. We know that you have it in you, and we're going to show you how. Now, let's get started.
Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome back to Anti-Bullying 101. These podcasts are designed to create awareness about the bullying epidemic and provide teachers, administrators, parents, and even students information about the dangers of bullying and why we have to take a comprehensive approach when dealing with the problem. My name is Jim Burns, and I'm your host for the show. I'm a retired high school administrator with over 40 years of experience in education. Currently, I'm a college instructor and have designed the Bully-Proof Classroom, a graduate course that provides my students with permanent help, not temporary relief, as they battle the bullying epidemic. Today, we're going to discover what we can learn from the Lone Ranger, a radio and TV show back in the 40s and 50s about one man that made a difference. The legend has it that a posse of 6 members of the Texas Ranger Division, pursuing a band of outlaws led by Bartholomew Butch Cavendish, is betrayed by a civilian guide named Collins and is ambushed in a canyon named Bryant's Gap. Later, an Indian stumbles onto the scene and discovers one ranger is barely alive, and he nurses the man back to health. The Indian recognizes the lone survivor as the man who saved his life when they were both children. The Indian gave the man named Reed a ring and the name Kemosabe, which means trusty scout. Among the rangers killed was the survivor's older brother, Daniel Reed, who was captain in the Texas Rangers and the leader of the ambush group. To conceal his identity and honor his fallen brother, Reed fashions a black mask using cloth from his late brother's vest. To aid in the deception, the Indian digs a 6th grave and places at its head a cross bearing Reed's name, so that Cavendish and his gang would believe that all of the Rangers had been killed. The Indian's name was Tonto, and Reed, the lone surviving Ranger from the ambush, the Lone Ranger who survived, became our hero, the Lone Ranger. Why is this story so important today? A radio and television series that ran in the late 1940s and through the mid-50s that I didn't even have an opportunity to watch and really didn't understand what the Lone Ranger represented until recently while watching retro television. It's fiction. But as I watched it, I came to realize that the show was not just for its entertainment qualities, but how it depicted what was right with the world and how one man could make a difference. The Lone Ranger lived by a certain moral code. He was consistent, never changed, and even when he had to use his gun, he never shot to kill, but only to disarm. He had the ability to disarm the perpetrator using both physical and verbal means. So what did the Lone Ranger believe? He had 10 things that he used for his moral code. 10 of them. I guess it's like his manifesto. He believed that to have a friend, a man must be one. That all men are created equal, and that everyone has within himself the power to make this a better world. That God put the firewood there, but that every man must gather and light it himself. He believed in being prepared physically, mentally, morally, and to fight when necessary for what was right. That a man should make the most of what equipment he has. He believed that this government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall live always. That men should live by the rule of what is best for the greatest number, and that sooner or later, somewhere, somehow, we must settle with the world and make payment for what we have taken. And finally, he believed that all things change but truth, and that the truth alone lives on forever. And he believed in his Creator, his country, and his fellow man. Those are 10 beliefs that the Lone Ranger had. It's when you think about it, it's quite a mouthful. Some of it people may have trouble applying today, like ones about the government and different things that people may disagree with. But when you look at it, it's what someone stands by, and it keeps them consistent, and it helps him to be flexible, and it gives him an opportunity to stand tall. And in looking at the Lone Ranger, what I discovered is his moral character never wavered. That's where his consistency lied. And we live in a world today that is so filled with intolerance, disrespect, and irresponsibility, and at times hatred, that one may ask, why bother trying to use his standard to live by? I ask, why not? Remember his name, the Lone Ranger? The one man who's trying to make the world a better place. We need to teach our kids some of the qualities of the Lone Ranger and help them begin to believe that they have the ability to make changes in the world. The key to the 99 is the one. One person can make a difference in the world, and slowly but surely the tide begins to change. First in one circle and then in others, until the masses believe that they all have the ability to make a difference. Where do we start? Well, let's see what we can begin to do to change ourselves first, and then how we can help others by using some of the Lone Ranger's moral code. To have a friend, a man must be one. The Lone Ranger had Tonto, and they were inseparable. They stood back to back for what was right and just. They cared for each other and had loyalty that is rarely seen today. They befriended others and took the time to cultivate relationships with the good guys, and yes, at times the bad guys as well. They worked to see the good in others And when someone was headed down the wrong path, they tried to help them right their wrongs. They always reached out. Is this something that we do today, or better yet, do we teach this to our kids to help others who are victims of bullying, abuse, or alienation? To have a friend, one must first show themselves to be friendly. All men are created equal, and that everyone has within himself the power to make this a better world. Where do we stand in this area of tolerance and prejudice? Do we allow the news to guide our thinking? Do we work to see the good in others, or do we believe that one bad apple spoils the whole bunch? These are tough questions, but things can easily be changed with the right words and attitudes regarding those who have weaknesses or who are different. Learn the art of disagreeing with the right attitude and teach your kids to do the same. We all have different beliefs, but one's belief doesn't warrant disrespect, but rather understanding. Number 3, God put the firewood there, but every man must gather and light it himself. Are we responsible, or do we blame others for our lot in life? Circumstances are what they are, whether it be upbringing, genetics, or some other force, that we all have the ability to be responsible for what we think, say, and do. How do we handle adversity? Do we help our children be resilient, or do we allow them to fold under pressure? These skills are there for the taking. We just have to light the match, to throw some firewood on the fire and throw some light on a problem that seems unsolvable. Number 4, the Lone Ranger believed in being prepared physically, mentally, morally, and to fight when necessary for what was right. How do we make decisions? Do we try to do it by the seat of our pants, or are we prepared to stand on the principles of right and wrong? We have to be prepared when entertaining the battles of life, and stand on what the facts are, not what our emotions are telling us. When problems are presented to us, our beliefs will determine our action. My question is, what do you believe in? Number 5, a man should make the most of what equipment he has. How do we optimize our resources? Are we creative, or do we give up at the smallest challenge? Are we down on ourselves because we're working at a job that seems to be going nowhere? Whatever our skills are, we need to use them for the greater good. When confronted by an issue, remember, no fear, be courageous, and realize that you have the power, the love, and a sound mind to tackle anything. That's your first 5. That's your 5 pieces of the Lone Ranger's moral manifesto. My feeling is, think about those just for a few minutes. We're going to cover the other 5, in our next segment. Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome back to Anti-Bullying 101. I'm your host, Jim Burns, and right now we're covering, and right in the middle of an episode, of what we can learn from the Lone Ranger. And I have, when I post this podcast up, in the description, I'm going to have a link where you teachers can go and you can get the entire lesson plan associated with this podcast. And I think you'll find it very helpful. I think you'll enjoy it. I really do. I think that you'll be able to use it with your kids. You'll be able to use some of the videos from YouTube on Lone Ranger episodes. And you'll really be able to give your kids an idea about what moral character looked like back in the 40s and 50s. Because this character, the Lone Ranger, he was played by Clayton Moore. And Tonto was played by Jay Silverheels. These two just represented what was good. I must say, what was good. And if you watch some of the older episodes on Retro TV, you'll see what I mean. We're right in the middle of his set of moral rules that he uses, and we're on number 6. And number 6 may be tough for some people, but it's something that I think we need to understand. The government, he believes in the government of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall live always. You know, the government, which has been around for what seems like forever, will always live. The question is, do we agree with it and the people running it? When I watch a campaign ad, it seems like the candidate spends more time telling me what's wrong with other candidates than what their own strengths are. So much time spent on negative talk and besmirching each other can grow long in the tooth. Yes, it probably will live forever. My question is, how do we tolerate it when the candidates of our choice is not in office? Or better yet, how do we help our kids manage it when all they hear is negativity and at times lies from the people who are in office? And that's the important thing here. We have to make sure that our kids understand the government, and our kids do have a respect for the government, and that they learn how to disagree with the right attitude, because they're going to run across a lot of people who are both Democrat and Republican. And when they run across these people, and whatever they are, they have to be able to state their mind, what they believe in, and then have an objective conversation. The key here is helping our kids understand that they have to be able to disagree, but with the right attitude. And sometimes they have to learn how to cooperate, even though they disagree. Number 7, man should live by the rule what's best for the greatest number. We have a tendency to fear the minority. When I worked as a school administrator, it seemed like one parental complaint could change an entire policy. Everyone isn't always happy, but for some reason we always try to make everyone happy. How do we handle it when we're in the minority and you break a law or violate an employment policy? Rules are in place for the majority and need to be adhered to. Tell your kids this and help them understand the reason for certain rules, laws, and policies. Sometimes people can believe that the rules are not for them. And we have to be able to communicate to them that the rules are there for a reason. And all rules were written for a reason. You know what? And it may not even make them right, but they're there for some form of protection. And it does protect the law of it does protect the larger number, even though people, hey, how the law in my town is you got to wear a bike helmet. I mean, when I was a kid, bike helmet, we never wore bike helmets. We all fell. Nobody got hurt. I don't think they did. The fact of the matter is, one or two people get hurt. You have to start protecting kids from falling and hitting their head. It's a different age today, and you do have to follow the rules and the laws, and you have to understand why they're in place. Whoops. Let's see. Sooner or later, here's the next one. Sooner or later, somewhere, somehow, we must settle with the world and make payment for what we've taken. Now, some people might call this karma, some call it the universe, and some say what goes around comes around. Whatever it is, life has a way of balancing things out. How do we know when payback might be coming? Your conscience will bother you. The world will give you the time to right the wrong, but if you don't, its payback might be more than you can bear. If your conscience tells you to make things right with someone or to make restitution, do it regardless of how uncomfortable it might be. That uncomfortable feeling will seem like nothing when you compare it to what the world may have to offer. So, understand, the world's consequence is greater than any uncomfortable feeling that you may experience. And I would like to add something here. What you feel uncomfortable doing, you should do. Too often we can get into a comfort zone. And then we think that we're so comfortable we don't have to do anything. It's that which is uncomfortable that is what we should do. Because sometimes the hardest things for us to do make us feel uncomfortable, but we should do them anyway. All things change but truth, and the truth alone lives on forever. Hey, people lie and they know it. There are liars all over the place. There are also folks who kind of know how to embellish. They seem to deal in hyperbole or always make the $100 they made look like 1,000. In my experience, I've come across 3 types of liars. The situational reactive liar, and this guy will lie when it's just as easy to tell the truth. His lying is based on the situation and the reaction he might get from his or her spouse or someone of consequence. The con artist, and this guy could sell ice to an Eskimo, or sell you some undeveloped land in the backwoods of Virginia, a piece of land that everyone is just dying to buy, so you better pay for it now, sight unseen, of course. And the withholder. This is where it usually starts with kids. You ask them a question, and the answer they give is about 90% true. They leave out the other 10% because it might incriminate them. My question here is, which one are you? Or what do you tell your kids when the cashier gives you too much change back? Or when they ask you the speed limit when you know full well that you're speeding? Sure enough, the truth does live forever, and it will surely make you free. One line here, honesty is the best policy. If you're honest, guess what? You don't have to have that great memory because you don't have to remember what you said to everybody or said to one person or didn't say to another. Liars have pretty good memories. The Lone Ranger believed in his country, his creator, and his fellow man. The Lone Ranger believed that he didn't need proof. Call it altruistic, call it faith, call it what you want. He believed in things that are unseen. And, sometimes that can be risky. But in the long run, may be well worth it. Try putting some positive energy, though, into your country and your fellow man, and you might find out that the world may not have changed, but you did. the outlook becomes brighter and you begin to develop a greater sense of beauty of the world and begin to realize that people in it are part of the beauty. We have to start looking at things as half full, not half empty. It's difficult sometimes. Things can get tough. But every time I watch this show, I feel as if this is what was right with the world. And when you watch it, there was no drinking. No one got, the Lone Ranger never shot anyone and killed them. It was sheer moral character in that show. And I would encourage anybody, if you have retro TV, you can go to YouTube, watch a few episodes, and you're going to be amazed what you find out. And you'll leave feeling good about the world and the fact that one man could really make a difference. A character in a radio and TV show that was created with purpose. This guy was before Superman, Batman, and Spiderman. The kids in the 40s and 50s had the Lone Ranger. No special powers, not from another planet, but a real flesh and blood superhero who offered us some guidelines on how to live a life of character, about how to treat others, and how to understand that how one person can truly make a difference. My name is Jim Burns, and thank you for listening to Anti-Bullying 101. As I said earlier, I am going to place the link for the lesson plans that go with this up on my up on the description of this episode. So you'll be able to click that and go right to it. If you like the lesson plans, it'd be great to use with your students. Number 2, when you go to the website, you're going to find that these podcasts are now on our website at www.bullyproofclassroom.com. Go there regardless. Take a look. Enjoy the website. As I said, there's a store there, and there's also a spot there where you can take some online professional development. And you'll get a ton of articles on the bullying epidemic and what we can do. There's something else there, too. It's called Burns' Bench. Subscribe to that. You'll be glad you did. You'll get updated on articles that come down the pike. So, once again, my name is Jim Burns. You have been listening to Anti-Bullying 101.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.